I want to join in the expressions of sympathy and condolence to the family of the most recent female victim of a heinous murder, Kanice Jackson, which has shocked the conscience of the nation yet again. Madam Speaker, in terms of action, I think one thing that we should really look at quickly, and which has been adverted to by my colleague, the Member of Parliament for South West St. Andrew, is the issue of enabling women, if they so choose, to carry pepper spray or mace for their personal protection. The law was passed in 2001, the Offensive Weapons Prohibition Act. And in 2001, when that legislation was passed, it specifically exempted and excluded pepper spray and mace from being defined or included in the definition of an offensive weapon. And the Parliament at that time clearly anticipated that women would be allowed to carry pepper spray or mace for their personal protection. To the extent that it was used in any other way, that would not be lawful. But if it was used in self-defense to protect themselves, it would be not an offensive weapon, it would be lawful. However, since then, in 2010, I think it was, an order was made under the Customs Act prohibiting the importation of those items into the country. And in our case that went before the Supreme Court, where that was challenged, the prohibition on importation was challenged. That challenge did not succeed. And in the course of the discussion by the judge, in her judgment, she made the point that in her view, the 2001 Act of which I spoke, which specifically excluded and exempted pepper spray and mace from being treated as an offensive weapon once it's being carried for personal protection, had impliedly repealed any inconsistent provision that maybe felt to have existed in the Firearms Act, which is a 1967 statute. There's no reference to pepper spray or mace in the Firearms Act, but some of the definitions in the Act are quite broad, and there was an argument that they would have encompassed pepper spray or mace. The judge said that, in her view, to the more recent provision, the more specific provision of 2001, which specifically addressed pepper spray and mace, had impliedly repealed those earlier provisions, but she made the point that that issue was not directly before her in the case, so what she was saying was what lawyers call obiter dicta, meaning it wasn't an essential component of the decision she was making. Here now, in 2021, women are feeling unsafe, the resources of the state are stretched, and they're calling for action. And I would urge the government to look at that particular issue again, look at what was attempted in 2001, and if necessary, amend the Firearms Act, a simple amendment to exclude from the purview of the Firearms Act pepper spray or mace carried for personal protection, and facilitate a regime that would allow its importation, distribution, sale in an appropriately controlled way. I don't think the licensing of these things through the firearm licensing authority is a viable approach. That would be expensive and cumbersome, but I do believe that there ought to be some assurance that the persons accessing it are of sound mind and that the persons selling it are reputable and so on. But those are policy issues to be looked at, but ideally looked at quickly in tandem with an amendment to make it clear that those items, when carried for personal protection and self-defense, are lawful.